All right, today we're jumping into a pretty wild and, let's be honest, controversial worldview. It comes from an author named Saul Luckman, and it's going to challenge just about everything you think you know about society, reality, and your place in it.
So let's just get right to it with a very direct, maybe even a little uncomfortable question. Are you in a cult? Seriously, just take a second to think about it.
Okay, you got your answer? Well, according to the author we're digging into today, the answer for you, for me, for pretty much everyone is yes. And that's really the cornerstone of his entire argument. It forces us to ask, what does that word cult even mean? Which brings us right into our first section. The argument here is that we've been trained to look for cults in all the wrong places, when the biggest one of all is hiding in plain sight, society itself. So this is where he completely flips the script. He's not talking about some fringe group in the desert. He defines a cult as any system at all, that's designed to funnel our thoughts and actions into these narrow, pre-approved channels. You could basically call it mind control on a massive scale.
And I mean, look how wide he casts this net. We're talking about political parties, sure, but also your favorite sports team, universities, online forums, even groups that think they're fighting the system, what he calls truther communities. He says they all basically work the same way, creating these little echo chambers to police what you're allowed to believe.
Now, this is the key. It's not just being in a group that's the issue. The real problem, he says, is the emotional charge, that intense, passionate energy you pour into it. He argues that when you're all fired up, you are literally plugging your own personal life force battery into the group's agenda. And why would they want you to do that? Well, according to the source, the whole point of this entire setup, this world cult, is to harvest that personal energy. He gives it a name. He calls it loosh, and he suggests it's being farmed for purposes that definitely don't benefit you. So, if our energy is being harvested, who or what is doing the harvesting? That question takes us right into section 2 and what the author describes as the great parasite's game. This is where the theory goes from social commentary to something else entirely. The claim is that this whole system isn't an accident. It's all being orchestrated by a single, non-physical, hive-minded intelligence. This is the big boss, the puppet master pulling all the strings. And he's not saying this is some new discovery. He argues this very same entity has been described for centuries in different cultures. You know, the Gnostics called it the Lord Archon. In Christianity, it's the devil or Satan. In some Native American traditions, it's Wet-to-Co. The suggestion is that these are all just different names for the exact same thing. Now, it's really important to get this straight. We're not talking about some sci-fi evil AI like in the movies. The author is very clear that this great parasite is a natural foreign intelligence. It's not a machine. A key difference is that it needs to feed on our emotional energy, our loosh. In fact, he suggests the whole idea of a killer AI is actually a clever distraction to keep us from noticing the real parasite. So how does it operate? Well, according to this text, it's like a computer virus. It installs its own mind into people. It flips everything on its head so good seems bad and real seems fake. And its favorite trick? Fostering a duality cult, keeping us broken up into endless warring teams, fighting each other instead of looking up at the puppet master. Okay, so we've got a parasitic intelligence running a world of cults to harvest our energy. But where is this all happening? The answer to that is maybe the most mind-bending piece of this entire puzzle. He says reality itself is a dream. Yep, the idea is that this world we see, the one that feels so solid and real, is actually more like a flexible, interactive dreamscape. The author calls it the Gameboard, a kind of virtual reality where we're playing a high-stakes game. So how is that even possible? This quote kind of lays out the mechanics. The world is observer-generated. That means we are the ones creating it, moment to moment, with our conscious, imaginative energy. When we look at something, our consciousness makes it pop into existence. It's a pretty radical idea, but it lines up with some of the weirder interpretations of quantum physics. And what this creates is this massive, powerful feedback loop. The dreamscape is intelligent, so it shows you exactly the proof you need to keep believing whatever it is you believe. And then your beliefs, in turn, reinforce your experience of the dreamscape. You see what you believe, and then you believe what you see. It's a self-locking cycle.
And doesn't this make you wonder? Could this feedback loop explain how two groups with completely opposite worldviews can look at the exact same world and both find overwhelming evidence and facts that prove they're right? In a magical, dreamlike world, that's exactly the kind of thing you'd expect to see.
So if this is the game we're in, is there a way out? Is it possible to wake up from the dream? Well, this final section lays out a specific roadmap for how to do just that. The author breaks it down into 3 basic phases. First, you have to truly understand the nature of the trap. He calls it understanding the construct. Second, you have to stop feeding it your energy. And third, you have to take that energy back and build yourself up.
Phase 1 is all about a shift in perspective. It means finally admitting you're in a cult. It means understanding that this parasite thing is both your enemy and your greatest teacher. And maybe the hardest part, it means rejecting these psychological traps, these ideas of absolute truth or pure evil. Phase 2 is all about action, or maybe inaction. He calls it the nuclear option, basically blowing up the whole system in your own personal life. This means you stop feeding the beast, you unplug from media, you walk away from politics and organized religion, and you practice non-compliance whenever and wherever you safely can. You starve the system of your energy. And once you've stopped that energy leak, the final phase is to supercharge. This is where you actively build your personal power back up. The author details a bunch of techniques, but his top ones include things like potentiation, which is a form of sound healing, recapitulation, a shamanic practice for healing trauma, becoming a lucid dreamer to control your dreams, and stalking, which is about ruthlessly observing your own behavior to get rid of programming. So what's the whole point? Where does all this lead? Well, according to this text, the ultimate goal is to build up so much personal power that you can die consciously. The idea is that when your body dies, instead of getting your memory wiped and being recycled back into the game, you can hold on to your awareness, break free, and journey into what he calls infinity. You finally wake up. And that's where we'll leave it. Look, whether you see this whole worldview as a profound insight or a total fantasy, it definitely leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. If there's even a chance the author is right, and our reality is a dream we are all creating, what will you choose to dream?